I'm sure you are as well. I'm the co-professor in charge currently in the higher education program, and on behalf of the program and on behalf of the department, the UPS Educational Policy Studies Department, thanks for coming tonight. This is a special time to honor Fred and Chris, and we are very, very glad to be here with you, and the hat looks marvelous. I'm telling you right now. We have some things planned along the way here that hopefully that KP and Allie have put together. But let me just say a quick word on a personal note. It really is. I'm really happy to be here to honor you tonight, Fred and Chris, because Fred and I went to grad school together here at Penn State back in the 19th century, and no, not quite that long ago, but 30 years ago we met each other, and we went to classes together, did different things in the summertime, played softball together for a higher education student association team. And the last thing to say, because I know I'm supposed to be short or KP will give me the hook, Fred's the reason I'm back here at Penn State. He sent me an email on May 1st, 3.5 years ago, and said, "Hey Dave, there's this one-year position that wondered if you had any ideas for who might be able to fill it." And he said, "But if you'd be interested in it, you probably would be an okay candidate too." And so later that day, we talked on the phone, and I, long story short, I applied for the position and got the one-year position, and then subsequent to that was asked to stay on for additional years, and here I am today. So thank you for 30 years of friendship, and for being the reason that I'm back here at Penn State. My wife graduated as an undergrad from here, and we really enjoy being here and being able to do the things that we're doing. So thank you very much. Yeah. I'm going to turn it over to somebody else now, I think, right?
You're going to turn it over to me.
I'm going to turn it over to Karen Paulson. Here she is.
That's and I guess I need to sit in the chair. So welcome. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming to this celebration of you, the Miracle Man. That's my nickname for Fred. And as I was saying earlier, it's our first try at a multi-modality retirement party. So this reflects your reach to so many people in the online. We wanted to give the people online an opportunity to talk about how important you were to them. So that's why we're doing it. So thank you all for standing by with the technological, but it's working. So this is good. So you meant a lot to them, and you mean a lot to those of us here at University Park. So thanks to all of you for joining us. I am also the time mistress tonight, so keep it short, and I'm looking at you, Bob. And I have the list. So when you are called, if you're physically in the room, we'll have you come up and sit here so that the people online can see you and we can hear you, and it's captured by because we're recording all of this so that Fred and Chris can have it for, I'm sure they'll want to watch it on Friday nights with their family. So Fred, you're very special, and thank you. We love you. So, great. Okay, so Ryan, you're next.
Hi, I'm Brian Fisher. I'm an education program associate in the College of the Liberal Arts. And thanks to Fred, I'm a twice born alumnus of Pennsylvania State University. So my story about Fred is very quick. And I first met Fred in a professional context in liberal arts, trying to partner with the higher education program on the World Campus Initiative. And Fred was a perfect ambassador for the program. He was articulate, collegial, well-versed in everything, and very encouraging. And, had very creative about the potential for online education, the potential for partnerships with the college. And then my first class in the higher ed program was with Fred in Higher Ed 490, which was fantastic for me after a 2-year break from studies to get back into the classroom. It was a blended environment, so this is all very familiar to me. And Fred, you were just so good at helping me transition from an undergrad to a graduate student, think about the value of self-reflection in growing as a person and as a student. So thank you for pulling me into the program, kicking and screaming, and I wish you the very best.
I have a couple of notes. Roger Geiger and Roger Williams send their congratulations, and they regret that they couldn't be here this evening. So you're in their thoughts. Kevin also, can you believe the College of Education had a scholarship banquet tonight instead of coming to this? I can't believe it. So, oh, I'm not talking. Sorry. So, okay, next is Jana Clinton.
Hopefully the 2 minutes isn't counted in transition. All right. Hello, everyone. I know some of you in the room. Jana Clinton. I wear multiple hats as an academic advisor here in the Snow College of Business, but I'm also a doctoral student in the higher ed and comparative international education program. So very excited for Dr. Loomis. He was a huge supporter throughout my master's program, and they say that certain people are put in your lives for a special reason. I truly believe that to be true. For Dr. Loomis, he really inspired me to continue on after the master's program. So after I graduated, people would ask, oh, are you going to do a doctorate? And I said, no, you're absolutely crazy, I'm done. Staying connected with the program, Dr. Loomis asked me to come back as a panelist for his class, which was really neat. And then having one of the receptions over at Whiskers for the first time with colleagues in the program, I felt like myself, I transitioned from a student to a colleague at that point. So I just wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for all your support.
Okay. Nicole, I'm giving you the heads up that you're going to be the next after I read this letter, okay? So here's another letter that came in from Adam Linity. Is that how you say it? Hi, Fred. I apologize I wasn't able to get any video recording completed for this momentous occasion. However, I hope that this message finds you well and looking forward to the next chapter. As I sit in front of this keyboard in my office at Westchester University as a resident director, it's because of you and the faith you had in my ability to be in higher education. I can say without reservation I would not be in this position, nor would I be poised for the pursuit of a college presidency if it were not for your guidance, compassion, grit, and most of all, your belief in me. You also came into my life at a time I needed a father the most. For mine had passed very close to the beginning of my master's studies, and I was in the process of losing my fiance to cancer as well. Our endless conversations about careers in higher education, our shared passion for it, and the students we serve, as well as your compassion for everything going on in my life, there could have been no greater father figure for me than you. Fred, you stood by me, guided my passion for higher education, but most of all, you taught me what perseverance and passion for a vocation is all about. I'll forever be grateful for you, my mentor, my professor, but most of all, my friend. Thank you for always believing in me when no one else did. Thank you for always having my back, no matter what. And most of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to find passion and find higher education. You've given me the greatest gift I could ever imagine, and I try every day to pass it along to all the students I serve. Best of luck in the next chapter, Fred, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. With all my love and admiration, Adam. That was beautiful. Nicole, you're up.
His writing skills have really improved.
Have they? well, except for he didn't do spell check, or he did spell check. His fiance came out finance. And I think, this doesn't sound right. Here's this if you need that.
I might need that.
I know.
How did you know? I just have a couple of words. So if you don't know me, I'm Nicole, and I just graduated from the MED in Higher Ed program at World Campus, but I live here. I just wanted to say I was starting a brand new life when I decided to apply to grad school. Even though I was new to the field of higher ed, you saw the potential in me to be a leader when I didn't see that in myself. Because of that, I'm here today with the confidence that I can do anything. Thanks so much for believing in me and encouraging me throughout the whole program. I hope we can keep meeting even though you're officially retired now. Thanks so much for everything.
I have some words to pass along, actually from Mary. Mary's on? Mary, do you want to say your own stuff, or do you want me to read what you wrote? I guess I'll read it. Okay. What? Read it for, okay. This is from Mary Troy. His faith, candor, love of life, and family are inspirational. We who've been so fortunate to be his students have learned much more than course content while in his classes. He's such an encouraging cheerleader, reminding us to live each day with gratitude, to nurture our health and our relationships, and to make the most of our academic pursuits and careers. We're all looking forward to hearing of your adventures. You, Fred, and your family are always in Mary's prayers. That was nice. Okay, now we're going to turn to some of the online folks. Nika, you're going to be up next.
Okay. Can everyone? Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. Hi, I'm Nika. I graduated from the online higher education program last year, and I also did the IR program. So several years ago, I was in a position where I wanted to go to graduate school in a new field, and the particulars of my situation made it that an online option made the most sense. But when I was looking at online programs, I was very concerned about the lack of personal connection to my professors, to my classmates, and to alumni. These connections were really important to me because I was new both in the field and in my state of Rhode Island. Enter Dr. Loomis. From the first moment I contacted him, asking questions about the IR certificate program, Dr. Loomis ensured that personal connection. He answered all of my inquiries in a way that made me realize the program would be a good fit, not only in terms of content, but in terms of building real and valuable connections. He taught the higher ed professional seminar, which was among the first classes I took. Dr. Loomis created an environment where connections between classmates were built and thrived. He connected us to the heart of the field by putting us in touch with interesting material and also practitioners in the field. Later, Dr. Loomis served as my internship advisor. He put me in touch with higher ed alumni working at several different institutions. Once I started my internship, Dr. Loomis acted as a valuable sounding board. Because of Dr. Loomis, I had no trouble finding the personal connections that are really at the center of an effective education. Thank you, Dr. Loomis, and enjoy your retirement.
Liz, you're up.
Meaning me? Can everyone hear me? Okay, because I can't hear myself. Okay. Fred and I met when he was working with the Y2K project. I was very far away from home, going to Penn State Harrisburg campus, working on my Master's of Public Administration, and I did not know anyone in the state. he was kind enough to not only I was his employee essentially, but he really nurtured and developed me as a person. He encouraged me to use my work at the Y2K project for a benefit and use it for all my many papers I needed to write while I was in that program. So in the end, I was able to kill two birds with one stone and have that experience help me not only at school, but also, as a career opportunity. The thing that makes Fred so unique, he's just takes the time, and now as I've been out in the world all these years, I think I've learned, and I get emotional, but I think I've learned to do what Fred did, engage with my employees and my coworkers, really connect with them and develop them so they're not only a good friend of mine, but also that they are able to develop their strengths and build on those strengths, because that's exactly what he did for me. It was so fun to get to know his wife and his children, which are very little. I only went into their home a handful of times, but they were just so very kind. And when I think of Fred, I think of how much he loved Penn State. He just loves Penn State. And it's kind of contagious. He got me, a non-sports person, to actually go to a football game and to cheer. And he was very excited to see that happen. Now here I am all these years later. I graduated in 1999. And I've loved, sending them my Christmas cards, watching him develop, him and his wife and the children grow up on Facebook. But I always smile when I think of Fred, because he's just so kind. And not only was he a great mentor of mine, but he was a great leader and a great parent. So I was even able to kind of watch him parent with his children. And I've been able to learn so much from him. And I appreciate the invite to come today, and hope that this made sense, because I feel like I'm rambling. But thank you for all you've done for me. And I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Stormy.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay. Sorry about that. I'm the weird one because I first met Dr. Loomis at Drexel. He was the chair of my master's program at Drexel, and 3 weeks into the program, we had a little problem with the leadership professor, and he absolutely demonstrated what a higher ed leader needed to do, and went above and beyond to support the students, and turned what could have been just a horrible situation into a fantastic situation. So I spent 2 years with him at Drexel. He made me smile and enjoy the moment as I walked across the stage. He literally stopped me and said, "Smile, this is the fun part." And I've got a picture where he was looking at me smiling, giving me a big thumbs up, and I'm looking at him smiling right before I got the diploma, and it is one of my treasured possessions. So when it came time to get a PhD, because he really didn't let me finish, I got off the stage at Drexel and he said, "Now you're getting a PhD." So I didn't get very much downtime with him, but that was great. I followed him to Penn State and got my PhD in 2016, with the caveat that he had to be on the committee because I wasn't doing it without him. And the running joke was that when I got to Penn State, he told me that I could call him Fred, and I said the day I called him Fred would be the day he called me Dr. Stark. And I held to that. So the first time I called him Fred was last April. And I think we're hearing the same things come up: compassion, kindness, nurturing. I think, Dr. Loomis, what you do so extraordinarily well is model to people how we should treat each other. You're an amazing leader, and I've learned more leadership lessons just watching you interact on a daily basis than I can ever possibly tell you. But what you do better beyond all of that is just really show us how to treat each other, how to be respectful, even in times when budgets are icky or the strategic plan needs some adjustment, to come to agreement in a professional manner without being cutthroat or nasty to each other. And it's just, your caring, compassionate nature just shines through over and over and over again. And I think we're all very, very grateful for that. So I'm excited to see what you do next. I hope you have many, many more happy, healthy years with lots of good projects and productivity. Lots of love to you from Virginia. We'll be in touch. Congratulations.
Great. Thanks. Andrew, you're up.
All right. Hi, Fred. I just want to say really quickly, congratulations. Fred and I met the last year of my PhD, which was his first year back on the faculty. And I'm very glad we had that overlapping year, because I'm really grateful to have been able to know Fred Loomis. I'm not going to repeat all of the nice things everybody said, because I would say the exact same thing. But I will just sort of an example is Fred met my parents one time at my dissertation defense. And every time I talk to him, every time I email him, every time I see him, Fred says, "How are your parents?" And that's just the kind of person that he is. And I do echo the sentiment that Fred Loomis is we need more Fred Loomises in the world. We really do. And so since I don't have the constraints of being in a university classroom right now, I am toasting to you, Fred, from the Land Grant Brewing Company. And so I wish you many happy years of retirement, and I hope that I get to see you soon.
Okay, Jennifer, you wanted time.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, I'm Jennifer. I am ironically sitting in Mr. Loomis's daughter's house at the moment. I have known him since I was 2 years old, and I again will not repeat everything that has been said, because I, at this point in my life, have no more words except that he is one of the most wonderful men I've ever met. He helped me through my Master's of Education program. He is trying to help me get a job on top of everything else he has going on in his life right now. His family will always be my adopted family. I will always love you. I wish I could say that I was your colleague at some point, but I know that whatever happens to me, you will be there supporting me through everything. I know I will get to see you again soon. Unfortunately, like some of you may not. But again, like Andrew said, we need many, many more Fred Loomises in this world. I hope I can live up to be half of the higher ed professional that you are and always will be. Thank you.
Okay, Ed.
Hi, still haven't figured out how to use this thing. This is where practicing comes in. I'm up here someplace. I can cut mine down to, I had a bunch of cards which I've now thrown away, and I will take it down to say what they said. Fred has been an inspiration. Fred helped me. I'd like to think I was an okay student, but I think I was a difficult one. And I appreciate that all he threw in to help me get through the program. I also appreciate the fact that I personally hold him responsible for the Indians making it to the World Series last year, because we went to a ball game together, and it was the last time the Indians lost a series that year. And so the fact that they made it to the series last year, and Lord, I'm hoping this year, I think is entirely up to Fred's magic in giving me the first winning team in my life. So Fred, keep that up in your retirement. The Indians are still looking for all the help they can get, and I hope we get a chance to see more ball games together, and you can even win one of them once in a while. Thank you for all you've done. Congratulations on your retirement. Have a great time. Thank you so much.
I was listening too much and forgot to tell Karen she was next. Karen, you're
I was
next.
following the list. Hi. Hi. Good night, everyone. I have known Dr. Loomis for less than a year, but the impact that he has had on my life has been very great. I had to make the time to be a part of today because it's as though he was somebody as part of my education from undergrad straight through. I'm a junior academic, and I thought, oh, I have myself sorted out. I've done my degrees, I have my PhD, I publish, and I'm confident in what I do. But when I did Higher Ed 490 and I had to do the activities and I listened to the feedback I got from him, I realized, wow, I'm really lacking in some confidence here. And he helped me to confront some of my own fears about writing, about just putting myself out there as a scholar. And I want to thank him so much for the effort that he puts into the seeming, it's like almost it's effortless effort, if that's the thing, that he puts into shepherding each of his students and colleagues, as I've heard. So thank you so much, Dr. Loomis, all the way from the Caribbean. I really, really am happy that I chose to do this program this year and got to meet you and have you for 2 courses. And I'm thrilled that other students will get to meet you in your adjunct role. Bye.
Well, there are cupcakes, there's cookies, there's drinks. So you do it kind of quietly, and so you can listen, but you can get up and move around if you like. It'll be okay. I'll let you do it.
Hi there, my name is Chelsea King. I'm a recent graduate of the higher education program and one of Dr. Loomis' advisees. And I wish I could be there tonight to celebrate you, Dr. Loomis, but I just wanted to send a quick note that of congratulations, and I'm so excited for you and your family as you retire and take this next step in your career. I just wanted to express my appreciation for all that you have done for me and for other students in the higher education program. I know that you really inspired me and supported me in my pursuit of my master's degree, as well as being able to tailor my degree to something that was specifically of interest to me within higher education and particularly career services. I'm so thankful that you supported me as I was able to pursue different courses outside of higher education coursework and different internship opportunities, the way that you encouraged me to be able to give back to other higher ed students by asking me to participate in presentations and do synchronous sessions with other students. You really engaged me in my coursework and made me feel like I was a part of the program and that I have real, true advice and support. Your feedback was always extremely encouraging, and you really gave so much meaning to my educational experience, and I'm so appreciative of that. I'm also appreciative that we were able to get coffee recently, and that I was able to hear about all that you're doing with your family, and to hear that your health as well. You're getting to spend time with your grandkids. I'm so happy for you. And I just really want to wish you congratulations on this wonderful accomplishment and thank you for the wonderful influence that you had in my life. Hi, this is Miranda I've done. For me, while I was taking your course, it was such a perfect timing for me to take that course when I did, because it not, I probably wouldn't have met you, and I know that it was meant for me to meet you. You inspired me right away with our conversation, with your transparency, with you sharing with the class all the obstacles that you have gone through, but now who you are and who you have become. A living miracle is so amazing. It just reminds us all that no matter what obstacles we face, that we can overcome, that we can just achieve anything, and we have that faith. I know that whoever you meet along the way, I know that in this new season, in this new journey, you will continue to impact lives. You will continue to move mountains. You will continue to speak and breathe healing, because when you do speak, when you give even the small feedback, you bring healing into someone's soul. And sometimes we don't realize when we impact someone. And I'm just here to tell you that you make an impact, and you will put here for a reason, and you will continue to do that no matter what you do after your retirement. So congratulations, and I'm just so blessed that I met someone like you who actually confirmed to me that the program that I'm in right now at Penn State and the timing that I'm in taking these courses is the right timing. So it's things that I was asking for, and then I feel like you were an angel to inspire me to this major, to this degree. And so thank you. I know we don't know each other personally. I know that we only know each other for maybe 2 or 3 months of the course that I took with you. But you are an inspiration, and continue doing what you do without us. And enjoy your day.
Hi, Brett. I just wanted to take this opportunity to wish you the best on your retirement, and thank you for everything you've done at Penn State. I'm traveling back from the National Engaged Scholarship Conference this time, and so I'm not able to be there in person to say to you, thank you for everything. You were a great inspiration when my husband Bill was in the higher ed program with you. You were extraordinary in welcoming us to Penn State, and your wife Chris made us an Italian meal at your home, and we ended up buying a house in the same neighborhood because we loved it there so much. And finally, you were an outstanding mentor to me when I was young in my career here at Penn State. I appreciate everything that you have done for this university and for me personally, and I wish you the very best. I will always love you for everything that you did, and for all the care and nurturing and the passion you had for this institution. Thank you, and best wishes to you and Chris, the kids and the grandkids. Much love and God.
Dear Fred, my wife Mitra joins me in wishing you, your wife Christine, and your families all the best as you prepare to retire from your long career in Penn State. Even I go a long way. We did a lot of work, especially at Penn State, starting with the e-business task force that we jointly ran for Penn State in 2000, and ending with the higher education leaders of India, whom we taught leadership and management skills in Penn State in 2004. We had a good example of how to do. And Duke, I hope you continue to stay well, and please keep in touch. This is Nirmal Pal, your friend forever.
Hi, Dr. Loomis. Greetings from the state of Georgia. It's Callan Williams. I had the pleasure of meeting you in December 2016 as a student in the MED program. And I want to thank you, first off, for the wonderful introduction to Howland Penn State, but also the MED program. Your support helped me get through not only that semester, but also throughout this entire program. About to finish, and a lot of that's thanks to you and the support that you gave early. as I was thinking about what to say, something came to mind as far as just the extent that you go to help students. I know that you met with me several times through Skype. Probably when you had a lot of other things going on, just to hear me out on different things. But the thing I'll remember the most is I just mentioned that I was interested in leadership in higher education. And lo and behold, about a few weeks later, I get a shipment of books on leadership. And it was amazing as a student to think, man, someone cares enough to be able to offer some of the resources that they have to someone else who truly never met in person except for online. So I appreciate everything that you've done for me. You've made an impact on me, even though we've never met face to face. I hope you have a wonderful retirement. I hope you're able to fulfill a lot of different things that you've been wanting to do. And here, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for what you meant to me, not only in this program, but in my life going forward. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Loomis. This is Jerry Costa. I'm in the Middle East now, so unfortunately, I'm unable to join the live session due to the time difference. But I did want to share a memory from about a year ago when I attended the Higher Education Association in Loomis State College. And sitting to eat with my family, and the nice couple asked me to join our table with you and your wife. I was very happy to get to know you in person. And that was also when I realized that it's not just the program, but also the educators and administrators who want to make positive impacts on students on every campuses. Dr. Loomis, I admire your professional work, and I appreciate all of your guidance, your support, and encouragement throughout the program. And I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity to learn from you. I want to wish you and your family luck in your new chapter in life. I want to wish you much health and joy with your grandchildren. I hope you get to go on many hiking trips with them and just enjoy each other's company and just have quality time with each other. So good luck in the future, and thank you for all that you've done for the program. Thank you.
Dr. Loomis, just graduated in 2014. Sorry I can't be there today. I wish I could be for your retirement. You are such an influential person in my life. I wish I could deliver this message in person. But since I can't, I just want to share with you the thought that grad school is very tough for a lot of students. Okay. It's extremely tough. You're then add on trying to start a new career, and you battle a baby for the next year possible. But for you, I don't know if I would have completed, quite honest. You affected me through different times in my journey, too, before I even met you. Once to get into the statistics class, you didn't know who I was, and hear my story loud. And then also taking over my internship class midway through and making it a little easier on me and understanding the importance of that internship to me in my career. And then finally allowing me to participate in the capstone process as we were just switching over to that higher ed from away from the thesis. Once again, back to that baby, chasing around with baby and trying to get that, and then also writing a 75-page thesis would have been maybe instrumental. So thank you very much for having that impact on my life. You are the single greatest teacher I've probably ever had. You're also a dear friend of mine, and I hope that we continue to see each other many years. So enjoy this retirement, enjoy your celebration today. Take to heart all the wonderful things many people will say about you, because they are all true. I do from my heart when I say this evening. I love you, and I hope to see you for a few more years over the next few years. Thank you, and enjoy your retirement.
Hi, Dr. Loomis. It's Alice from your Swan Song HIED 490 class. I just wanted to reassure you that I am still journaling. And I will read this week from a reading that we did in 490 for a class I'm taking right now, and my professor was pleased with that actually, so I'll sidebar thank you for that. I also just wanted to say thank you time and the passion that you have poured into this program and into the classes that you teach. I hope that you're going to have a chance to spend some time with family and friends, have a little fun, get to what I'm sure is a long list of books that you have been meaning to read and have not been able to because of the likes of me. So have fun with that. Your love for learning is evident, and the impact that you have had on your students will be passed down in turn, I promise. Thank you.
Pat Book here from Colorado, wishing you all the best on this significant achievement, reaching retirement. I'm sure everybody's going to miss you terribly there at Penn State, but a whole new chapter is opening for you, and this is very, very special. We've been through a lot together at Penn State. I have to laugh and smile every time I think of all the team building and organizational development efforts that you led, actually, and the rest of us tried to follow as best as possible. But anyway, I'm here to tell you, and I think you know this, that retirement is one colossal fabulous thing. We expect to see you out here in Colorado, and if you don't come here, we're going to come over there and see you pretty soon. We think of you with great fondness and many, many wonderful memories at Penn State, and just all of our colleagueship, our friendship, all of our experiences throughout the years. We are so excited for you. This is very meaningful and special, and we're just sending you all of our best, and we hope to see you really soon. Take care, Cal. But wait, there's more.
And now we're going to go back to face-to-face people, so don't forget that you're going to come up here, and Bob, you're on. And so when you see me going like this, Bob, do you know what this means?
Just get your cane out.
He's such a good sport. He lets me give him a hard time.
Well, I only have about 20 pages to talk to you about, and it's probably going to be a little bit like a lecture, so if you'd like to take notes, you can. So in the late 1980s, and I wrote this down because when you get older, the mind goes. But retirement is fun. In the late 1980s, a young man, Fred Loomis, walked into my office to discuss the possibility of working on a doctoral degree in higher education. Fred held a position in the then Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, Office of Civil Rights, as a compliance officer over several states. 3? I think. Yeah. Okay. Fred worked on Fred worked on state compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, requiring 19 southern and border states to dismantle their dual systems of higher education. Border states were those states north of the Mason-Dixon line, including Pennsylvania. And in fact, Pennsylvania had 2 historically black institutions, Cheney and Lincoln. With my interest in legal issues of higher education and having written about equity and desegregation of higher education, we were a perfect match, and I became Fred's advisor and dissertation chair. So now here's the lecture part, because many of you probably don't even know this. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a very hot topic in higher education as states wrestled with bringing their higher education systems into compliance. These 19 southern and border states had dual systems of public colleges and universities, with predominantly white institutions and historically black institutions, which Cheney and Lincoln are the historically black institutions in Pennsylvania. While Title VI has faded into the background, in the late 90s, the historically black public institutions continue to exist, and for the past 40 plus years have produced 75% of the African American PhD graduates in the United States. The saga of Title VI is an interesting one, and one that informs legal, constitutional, and policy perspectives on the relationship between the federal government and states. If you want to look at these issues from a legal perspective, see my book. No royalties involved, it's out of print. The Colleges and Their Constituencies and the Court, 1999, and look at pages 15 to 28. However, for a more comprehensive analysis, see Fred's dissertation, defended in June 1994. State Policy and Planning Systems, Responses to Legal Mandates to Desegregate Higher Education in Virginia and South Carolina. And that's in the Center Library if you want to take a look at it. I was going to read some passages from the dissertation, but since I'm on a time limit, I guess I won't do that. Fred, I am honored to have the opportunity to work with you during your graduate work and to have followed your outstanding career. I consider all of the students I've worked with to be like my children, and it gives me great joy to see them prosper as you have, Fred. More important than success is to always be attentive and caring to the ones that you are closest to and love. I know you had a strong arm to lean on in Chris and the children and the grandchildren. You will have more precious time with them in retirement. Speaking from experience, I know you will enjoy your retirement doing all those things you haven't had time to do. Jump into the retirement waters. It's fantastic.
Next up is Lorraine. And we're going to take a moment and show you the folks online, the rest of the room, I think. So you can see, where am I doing? Apparently I'm showing them the front corner. There.
The top right is my daughter. That's Jennifer Gordon, who was babysitting. Our grandsons, and my two grandsons right there. I couldn't help, I couldn't resist.
That's okay. No, that's great.
There they are.
There you go. Perfect.
I'm in the hot seat. Just a couple words. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Dr. Loomis. I'm trying not to be emotional because I'm a first-generation student, and the first class that I took was Dr. Loomis's class, and I felt like I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. This was impossible. There was no way that I was supposed to be there, that I fit in, that I could do it. And Dr. Loomis just encouraged me so much and had so much compassion and showed me that I could do it, you know. And I was so afraid, you know, and I just want to thank you for so much encouragement. And I didn't want to trouble him. I didn't want to be an inconvenience, or like, I didn't know what I was doing. And he was just like so there for me. And then when he wasn't there for me, he sent Allie to be there for me. And I, you know, now I was able to finish the higher education program, and now I'm in the PhD program, and it wouldn't be possible without you believing in me until I could believe in myself. So I just thank you so much. Your encouragement, your kindness, your gentleness with your students means so much, you know, and enjoy your retirement. Can I still call you? But I thank you, and thank your lovely wife for just being so, going beyond and above what your call of duty as a professor is. And I will never forget the kindness and the gentleness that you showed me and being there for me. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. The next person who's going to be speaking is Melinda. You get the hot seat now. Okay.
Hi, I'm Melinda Stearns, and I'm actually really sorry I never took a class from Fred because I hear all these things, and that would have been amazing. Fred and I worked together many, many, many years ago in what was continuing education, and then outreach and continuing education, and then outreach and online education, and all those good things. And it's funny because for the longest time, I haven't heard the term servant leader. But I will say that I go back to a lot of leadership education I received, and I think about the word servant leader, and that was Fred. Fred, people in my team, in my office, years later knew who Fred was because I would talk about how Fred was a leader and how he listened. Fred was probably the best listener of anyone I have ever met. So my kids know about you, my colleagues, my friends, because you are just an amazing listener and someone who is willing to give of yourself for others, for the cause. You just were an amazing, amazing colleague. And I wasn't sure about, Jim Ryan was smart enough that he hired both of us. But I wasn't sure about whether this was going to be the right opportunity for me because I came from corporate to higher ed. And you were able to really help me understand the crazy world of higher education. And now, 28 years later, I'm retired, and it's wonderful. And speaking of Jim Ryan, Jim, you're next.
Well, I guess my cup runneth over tonight, Fred. And I'm not sure what to say. I guess I never realized how smart I was by hiring you. In fact, you were my first hire. And the rest is history. So I guess I could finish there. But I do want to say that this is a dynamic team, Chris and Fred. And they are not only a dynamic team, but they are very wonderful parents. And to know them is to love them. And that you hear that every time you interact with people, but you heard it tonight. I guess as I think about Fred, I go back to the late 80s, early 90s when, as a new vice president, I had an opportunity to make a number of hires, and Fred was first. And I gave Fred all the odd jobs in the world. Human resources, information technology, and anything else that nobody wanted, we gave to Fred. The interesting thing that during those periods, and Mike, you'll remember this, we had a very major commitment for strategic planning in the university. And I've got to tell you, because of Fred's leadership, he carried that ball for us, and we always had one of the best strategic plans in the university, and that was very well noted, and Mike will acknowledge that. Fred, you talked about the service leader. He was also a man of principle, a leader of principle, in fact, a principle-centered leader. He had values that people knew, but they didn't wear them on their sleeve. He practiced them. He acted them out. It was behavior every day that Fred exhibited. What I always remember about Fred, and as I sit here listening to the World Campus and the use of technology, keep in mind, this was 1988, 89, 90, and we were trying to get the faculty interested in using technology in the classroom. And we had all kinds of strategies that we used, from seminars to closed circuit television, bringing in people from all over the country, talking about the value of education at a distance. And I was such a strong advocate for this, and Fred was right with me all the way. And in my second year, I think Fred said to me, he said, Jim, he said, I'm buying your message. He said, but can I make one suggestion? And I said, what's that? He said, I think you'd be more convincing if you put a computer on your desk. Well, that was Fred. I mean, he called it as it was. Fred really helped us not only launch distance education in its new form at Penn State, and I mean as opposed to correspondence, which went back to the late 1800s, But Fred also helped us launch the World Campus. And as I listened today to the products, the students who have benefited from the World Campus, and to see your leadership, not only at Penn State, but in other institutions, in not only outreach, but in certainly distance education, it's a thrill for me to be able to have said that and experience that with you. We have remained friends. We'll always be friends. No one loves the Phillies any more than me, except one person, and that's Fred. Our mutual love for Penn State athletics, men and women's sports, we share. Fred has always been very special, and he's faced some real challenges, as we all know. The family has faced real challenges, but he takes them on, and in his own quiet way, he's there. He's consistent. He does what he has to do. I would always go to Fred's office with a problem that was an immediate problem, and I could never get in because there were 4 people waiting to see Fred. And I said, what's going on here? And I realized in a very short period of time, he was the listener that Melinda talked about. A very effective communicator, but his great strength was listening. And as a result, people would go with personal issues and professional issues because they wanted to talk to this man. It was a real loss to Penn State when we lost you the first time, but I know you wanted to be closer to Chris and closer to home. I guess there are about 1,000 other stories I could tell, but 2 minutes and get the cane. I am just honestly, my wife, Diane, and I are delighted to be here and see you and Chris. Retirement is everything that folks have said it is. You shouldn't have waited so long, but now that you have, I've got a feeling you'll continue to keep your fingers involved. But you have done so much to this, or for this university, and so many students and so many of your colleagues. Fred, we love you, and we're always going to stay in touch. You are both great people.
And now, more of his higher ed friends. Dory, you're up. The only thing I regret about being up here right now is I haven't known Fred as long as so many other people in this room. And I know Mike Doris is I think he's right behind me unless you put someone else in there. So, what I'm going to say, I'm sure is going to seem, somewhat trivial compared to the years of experience you've had and sharing and friendship that you've had with all these people. But when I thought about talking tonight, I realized that you're the kind of person who you might not know for a long time, but you think you've known for a long time. And I remember a day, and you might remember this, in my office a few summers ago. I hadn't seen you in a while. And I kind of blurted out to you, Fred, you've lost weight. and as I said it, I thought, that's such a personal thing to say. I don't really know this man very well. And you told me, you shared with me what you were facing, and it was still a question at that point. And I know I shared with you that my father was had been dealing with the same thing in his life. And it was always sad for me because my father had the medical advantages of being the surgery candidate and everything, but was so fearful, so full of fear in what he faced, that he just couldn't make use of the 9 years, which I know I've shared with you before, that he did have. And I really believe that we never know how we're going to react. I mean, I'd like to think I would be noble in anything I face in my life, but who knows, really, until we're facing it. But I think with you and what you did from that point in sharing your Facebook pages and your pictures to Disney with your family and your grandchildren, and just opening up diagnoses and prognoses and all these things with us is so commendable. And so when I think about who you are, I mean, you're a person who helps others, who takes whether it's what you know about higher ed and have learned, and experiences that you've had, and giving that to other people to help them.
you've done the same thing with this part of your life. And I just think that that's unbelievable, including to the doctors who you believe can better understand something by looking at you. Maybe a little more than than you really care to. So just in closing, I don't know, I kept thinking of the phrase grace under pressure, and certainly that's what you demonstrate, to me at least, Grace. And I think we are all graced to having known you, even like me, for a short period of time. So I'm liking retirement too. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dory. And now John Cheslock's going to come on up. And I'm watching you. Keep it short.
If Bob can, handle it, I can. So I just wanted to take a moment, Fred, to recognize sort of the macro effect that you've had on the students and the program. You've seen all the micro effects, all the individuals talk about it. And right, we've already talked a little bit about the macro effect, and that's Dave Guthrie and all the help you did with recruiting people in that period. But what you may not know is Dave's developed this reputation as the graduate school whisperer in terms of moving paperwork through the graduate school. But I think it's a little unfair because he really pales in comparison to Fred Loomis and the behind the scenes work you did to get the program going was substantial. And this also includes our MS degree that we added. And there were so many things that Fred did that will fall under the list of kind of thankless tasks that people didn't notice that were just so vital to getting everything up and going. And I know you love the higher ed program dearly, and it was a really important time and that needed someone with your expertise and your goodwill and your hard work. And so thank you on behalf of everyone who has benefited from that. And it's been a great joy and inspiration to get to know you.
I have to introduce myself. I'm Allie. I was a PhD student in the higher ed program, and I worked with Dr. Loomis. I did not make a deal with him that I would start calling him by his first name, so I'm going to keep referring to as Dr. Loomis. And I'm going to keep my remarks brief just because I feel like I've cried many times in your office, and I'd like to continue that tradition rather than crying in front of everybody here. But one of the things that's been so impressive to me tonight, hearing everybody speak, is I thought you and I were the only ones that spent time together. I thought that you were only my mentor. How did you have time to mentor all of these people and to make such a profound effect on everyone when you were making such a profound effect on me? I feel like you have some explaining to do. But I remember when Dr. Loomis called me into his office to tell me that he had some health issues, and he told me, and I wanted to talk to him more about them, and I wanted to ask him if he was okay, and the only thing he wanted to know about was me. And that was the same through all 3 years that we spent time together, and I'm sure that that will be the same for years to come. So to me, while you may be retiring, I noticed something really compelling about your name. So if we were to remove this D from Fred and add an E, you would be free Loomis. However, while that's the case, you're not free, because I'm hoping that you'll still continue to make this impact on students. And I'm hoping that in all the ways that you've brought me and other students in to work in your classes, that now we can do the same with you.
Yes, I'm Mike Doris. I know some of you, a lot of you don't know me. So I'm the last speaker. So first I want to thank everyone who participated online and in the room. This was just such a nice event. And especially I want to thank KP and Allie for putting this program together, and Dave and other folks. And really, I can't add much to the well-deserved and heartwarming tributes that other people have offered here tonight. But what I can do is tell one story from 1987 that I think probably no one here, other than Fred, maybe Chris, knows this story. And it's the best kind because it's embarrassing. So I met Fred 30 years ago, which was a different time. And in 1987, I was working in Old Main. And I don't know if you know where I'm going with this yet, Fred. Okay. You'll pick up on it, though. So anyhow, we heard that we were getting a new staff member. And get this, a black guy from Philadelphia was joining the office. And however that got started, I really don't know. But I think it was probably because Fred was from the Office of Civil Rights, and he was coming from Philadelphia. And so, did you know this, Bob? You remember this?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the geniuses, yeah, one of the geniuses in Old Main probably said, well, you know, must be an African American. But of course, Bob did too. Okay. So anyhow, who shows up but one of the whitest people we had ever seen? I mean, really, I don't know if you know this, Fred's middle name is Dudley. So Fred has seen some changes at Penn State since 1987. At that time, Bryce Jordan was the president. That was before he became the basketball arena. And Fred and I knew Charlie Hostler and Joab Thomas before they were buildings. We also remembered Joe Paterno before and after he was a statue. But anyhow, aside from all that, Fred coming to Penn State 30 years ago turned out to be really lucky for me personally. I learned a lot watching Fred as a doctoral student and as he continued to develop as a very effective administrator and as a faculty member. And Fred has been a role model, not just for his students, but for many of us as his colleagues too. And as you all obviously know, he's kind and funny and honorable and smart, and he's optimistic and generous. He's very committed to students, clearly, and he's a terrific, devoted husband and father and grandfather to his beautiful family. So, as you can tell, I'm having a little trouble getting through the end. We're almost there. So as we wrap this up, I'm going to read a quote from Mark Twain. At his 70th birthday party, he asked his friends to step aboard your waiting ship and lay your course toward the sinking sun with a contented heart. And Dr. Loomis, that's my hope for you. So, excuse me. On behalf of your many appreciative colleagues and students, be happy, be well, and keep smiling. I'm proud of you, and I'm proud that you're my friend. So thanks to everyone else, but especially thanks to you. So now, we're going to ask Fred to say a few words, so if you would step up and don't walk through the electrical equipment here.
Chris is coaching me.
Okay.
I get a chance to say hello to my grandsons here. Can you see me? No, you honor me by your presence. You didn't have to say anything. You didn't have to say a word. We could have just gotten together and had this wonderful food. But all the sweets that you gave me tonight were obviously a lot better than what's in front of me right now. So thank you for that. It kind of reminds me, there are 2 or 3 occasions in your life where people get together and they say wonderful things about you. So one is when you get a new job, you're kind of leaving that work unit, you're moving on. Half the people are really happy for you, they're proud of you, of this accomplishment. And then the other half are just so happy to see you go and not come back. And then there's a retirement event like this where it's a celebration of your career. And then the last thing I can think of is like a memorial service when you pass on. So I'm just so happy it's the former, not the latter tonight. You're here. So I would have missed all of this, but yeah, it was just so great. I mean, in fact, I think this video stuff we should add to the online course now because it was so good to see people. some people I interacted with only online and through text, and I think to introduce themselves, see their face, is a good thing to add to the course. So, as I'm leaving, that would be one recommendation. I always come up with these ideas when I'm no longer involved, right? But actually, after all this, I've decided not to retire. I think I'll just keep working. So if you have me back, I'll do that. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge a few people that spoke. Liz Bachman Jorgensen now, and Jim Ryan. I have to give him credit. In addition to all those wonderful opportunities for me to learn, Jim, they weren't tasks really nobody else wanted to do. They were just great things to be involved with, and opportunities for me as a young professional to grow and learn and develop. And Jim Ryan believed in me. That was the thing. I didn't have any experience. I was coming out of 10 years of government. You know, the black guy from the Civil Rights Office. So I didn't know anything about higher ed. I was a student. You know. Bob Hendrickson was the other person. You know, he got that story almost right at the beginning. I came to him. I only had one course to take in this master's degree, and then I was going to finish out my career. I was going to be a supervisor, GS 13 in the government. If I had done that, I could have retired about 10 years ago. But I had one course to take, and it was I was going to take one of these intercession courses up here for a week with Marty Martirana, great scholar. I thought, this is wonderful. I'll take this course. I'll go up to University Park for a week. I'll pick up 3 credits. I'll graduate and have this degree. A week before the course was canceled. And I called up Trudy, who was the staff assistant. I said, well, I'm registered here. I've got to have this course. Is there anything else I can do? So you have to talk to Dr. Hendrickson about that. So I talked to Bob. I said, maybe you could do an independent study. Why don't you come up here and we'll talk about, you know, what you might do. So I had a meeting with Bob and talked about my career and the work I was involved with. And I sketched out what I wanted to do for these 3 credits. You know, that's good work. That's probably research that you could do. You know, have you ever thought about a doctorate degree? And up until that time, I had never thought about that. So all these students are here who are saying, Dr. Loomis, you encouraged me to keep going. It's because Bob Hendrickson believed in me. Said, you can do this. With your background, your career, your kind of mid-career, it's probably a good time. Because we get a lot of students who just come right through the program, right from undergrad. You've had some good experience. I thought, gee, maybe I know something here. So I figured out a way to get up here. And Chris was the other, you know, even before that, when I was an undergraduate kind of floundering. And then I met Chris, and all of a sudden I became a pretty good student. So it wasn't a coincidence, because she believed in me. You know, in every screwball idea I had, like, let's uproot the family and move to State College, and let me quit my good government job and go work in the planning office for half the salary. You know, she went along with all that stuff. Every screwball idea I ever had, and my kids too, and they kind of think that's okay, but it took a lot of courage for her to do that. So, and Jim gave me this Y2K thing, and Liz Bachman was my first student. I don't think she realizes that, but I had never had a student before working with me. I thought, wow, I hope that I'm doing well with her. And I knew a little bit about her graduate program and tried to encourage her. But to hear her, I haven't heard from Liz probably 17 years now since the Y2K thing. Oh, we kept in touch. But to hear her speak from the heart like that meant everything to me, Liz. So it took me a while before I was able to, I had thoughts of being an administrator like Jim Ryan. And the worst mistake I made in my career, Jim, was leaving working for you. Because the next person I worked with paled in comparison. Nobody could meet your standard of how to treat people, how to lead an organization. And I learned nothing about leadership after I left working for you. And I bounced around a little bit after that, and I decided, well, I'm not an administrator. Let me see if I can teach. So I went to Drexel and got their program going. They hired me as an adjunct first, and they hired me full-time, and then I was director of the program. So that's the other thing. If you just, all my students, if you just raise your hand and say, you know, nobody else wants to do this job, I think I can do it. Why don't you call on me? So that's been, to the extent I've had any success in my careers, because I just raised my hand and did the job that nobody else wanted to do or thought they could do. And then John Cheslock, you know, God bless him. I came up here and gone to these alumni council meetings and over drinks at one of these receptions, he says, we're going to start a, online master's program. We need to hire somebody just like Fred Loomis. Does he know anybody? I said, well, I'll look around. So I go all the way back to Philadelphia. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me in a long time. And let me see if I can come back and work for you and fulfill this vision to develop this online program. So John, you believed in me. You didn't know me that well or what work I was doing. You just thought, this guy can do it. He's doing it. Seems to be doing okay and successful at Drexel. We were getting students, but the key to our success and the quality of our program, I'm convinced, is the quality of the faculty, the scholars that we have, the Pat Taranzinis, the Bob Hendersons, the John Chestocks, the Dory Evansons, the Mike Dorises, who put their heart and soul into developing great content. And then the World Campus, Jenna, working with them and recruiting really good students. So if you have outstanding students who are learning from each other and committed to learning, and all the students, Chris, you're a good one too. You didn't do much online, but you did a little bit. But all these students that you met tonight, they're outstanding students. That's what makes a quality program. And I think the theme that I heard and that I want to acknowledge is that to the extent that I learned anything about teaching, although I had great mentors and scholars to work with, it was really because of Chris and the way that she taught in a K-12 environment, which is really in special needs kids. So these are kids that are limited. And it was always with a lot of positive reinforcement and affirmation and belief that they could be successful. Okay. So I tried to bring that, to my teaching and affirm people. Everybody was gifted. They had special talents and skills. What you really needed to do, somebody else is going to tell them when their work isn't good, okay? And you need that. Or I even needed that. It wasn't easy for me to hear from time to time, and I didn't react well to it, I know. But what we all need is feedback, whether it's negative feedback or positive affirmation about what people are good at. So, and the last thing I'll say is, when I got my diagnosis, I talked to Kathy and let her know. She was very helpful, great listening ear. And then I told Mike Doris, and I broke down when I told him. And Mike said, Fred, I'm going to call you Sunday night. I said, Mike, you don't have to do that. So I'm going to call you Sunday night. 7 o'clock, is that okay? I said, that's fine, okay. So I drove back to Philadelphia. Mike Doris calls me at 7 o'clock that Sunday night, right on the button. I'm by the phone. I'm looking forward to the call. We have a great conversation. He says, I'm going to call you next week. So Mike, you don't have to do that. No, I'm going to call you next week. 7 o'clock, is that all right? I said, okay. And then all week, I'm looking forward to that call. Okay. And I'm waiting by the phone. 7 o'clock. Every Sunday night for the last 3 years, Mike Doris has called me just to check in, see how I'm doing, how I'm feeling, how my week was. Has anything changed? And thank God I was saying, I'm feeling pretty good. Could you call me next week? Not that I'm superstitious. I'm a baseball fan. We're all superstitious if you're a baseball fan, right? But yeah, and every week he's called me. And I think we all need friends in our life, people in our life. It's great to have family and my wonderful kids and grandkids, my wife. But we need friends too, and friends like Mike Doris. So I wish you all that. And if you have a relationship, cultivate that, because it means everything, particularly when you're in a jam, in a crisis. And I just thank God I'm feeling good. I'm grateful. My grandson said, Pop, you gained all that weight back. You look a bit like a bouncy house. It's true. He's laughing, I'm sure. And then, when I was losing weight, Dory, I was in bad shape. I was losing like 5 pounds a week. And I was going for radiation, chemotherapy, you lose a little bit more weight. And you lose your hair. So my granddaughter said, Pop, it's all right if you lose your hair, but you have this blemish here, kind of a blemish, make sure you pull your hat all the way down. Or your baseball cap, pull it all the way down. So I did that. Kids will always tell you how you're looking. But I would say, if you're in a crisis, you have a health problem, Penn State's a wonderful employer. I don't think as an institution, they get enough credit for that. And they'll stand by you, particularly if you have support in your college and your department, which I had. And it was that first year, John took over all the administrative duties. So all I had to do was worry about the students. Oh, thank God, I don't have to go to meetings. Not that I don't like those World Campus meetings, but you'll go to those for me. And that interaction with students was so life-giving to me. And not to have the pressure, I'm sure that helped. Not to have the stress in my life, the pressure, driving up here, back and forth. I was just able to concentrate on teaching this course and interacting with students. And obviously you can see every interaction I had with them was positive and life-giving. So in a way, I don't want to give that up. I mean, I want to continue to be helpful to the program. Dave and KP, you got me involved in the internship program. Thank you for that. So in a way, I'm not retiring. I'm just moving to a different adjunct status. And you know, Penn State, big bureaucracy, but they hire people, good people who care about others, okay? And they're wonderful, really wonderful in that respect. So Jim mentioned I'm a baseball fan. My favorite movie is, I have to remember the name of the movie now, Gary Cooper. It's a Gary Cooper Yankee game. Pride of the Yankees, yes. It's the best baseball movie ever. It's the oldest baseball movie around. It's the story of Lou Gehrig, and the end of the movie gets up and he gives a speech at Yankee Stadium. So I kind of know how he feels, how he felt then about being the luckiest man on the face of the earth, because to hear all this tonight, wonderful. It must have been hard for all of you to sit through all that, but for me, it was terrific. And for so many reasons, especially for you sharing this evening with me tonight, I do consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. So thank you all for sharing. God bless you all. Thank you. Okay, Kyle, time to go to bed now. Bedtime.
Fred? That's the end of our setup program. And so please, those of you who are physically here, eat, drink, be merry, and mix and mingle. There are still cards over there that you can tell Fred what he should have on his bucket list, and retirement advice if you want to give him some retirement advice, or just give Chris and Fred some well wishes. So thank you, Fred. Thank you, everybody online. We appreciate it. And have a good evening.
Thank you, KP. Yeah.
I came up there with like 40 persons.
That's right.
Ali was asking me what photo to put on there, and I said, of the three she offered me, which all had faces, like this was the most fun. I'm like, what do you think of the faces?